Okay, just yesterday I introduced my project to you with a small film. I won't do that again. And today I'd like to go into the sustainable change we've tried to achieve during this project. As you can imagine, Sudan is quite a difficult country to work in. And every time we want to change something, we need to involve many, many people. What is the change we're talking about? We're talking about education in remote areas. We're talking about introducing technology. We're talking about active learning instead of rote teaching. And we're talking about children-centered learning, where the open-ended question that we talked about yesterday are really important. This is not what is really done at this time in Sudan. On the other hand, they saw that with so many children out of schools, they needed a complete change and do it differently to be able to reach out to those children. So actually, this was their own idea. And we supported the Oxford University, the Ministry of Education, in achieving their own goals. The most important thing that we needed to do was devise a system that could teach without teachers, because there are not enough qualified teachers in Sudan as it is, and the ones that are there, they would rather stay in the large cities and get more money than go to the remote villages where there is nothing. There is no water, there is no electricity, there is nothing. So this is the change we needed to achieve. Before we started, we looked into many projects because actually e-learning in developing countries is actually a mass grave of lessons failed. And we found that there are three very important elements that need to be in place to achieve change. One is that the educational solution needs to be flexible. It needs to be flexible so that it can reach the children at the place where they are. It also needs to be flexible, not to disturb their daily life too much. The program we devised required children to learn mathematics for 45 minutes a day in their own village for 5 days a week. And we'd have a morning session and an evening session. Afternoons are too hot. And the parents could choose in which of the sessions they would like their child to be, so as not to interfere with the daily chores and the tasks in life. The other one is everything you do should lead to formal education or to a formal certificate. So if we just use some e-learning that we produce in the Western world and take it to them, it will not lead to this formal education, which means that there is no continuity. Once the pilot stops, once the children finish with your learning sessions, there's nowhere to go. So we had to make sure that we tapped into this formal system. And the other one is continuity. Like I said yesterday, we did a very short pilot, 6 weeks, and it's not done to do a pilot for 6 weeks, introduce technology, introduce learning, and then go away and do nothing and leave them to their own lives again. So in this pilot, we made sure that there were teachers who stayed in the villages after the pilot was over. Computers stayed in the villages. A solar power system stayed in the villages to make sure that the children could continue their learning. This is actually what we do as a research company. We try to devise learning in a very thorough way. And we always say that if you want to develop and design good learning materials, and I think it applies to what was talked about yesterday, you always need to make sure that you've got the domain, the technology, and the human factor in place, and work together as a triangle. If you leave one angle of the triangle out, you will not get a perfect solution, and not a perfect solution will not give you the best possibilities and success. We thought that actually doing this project demanded both a bottom-up and top-down approach at the same time. We needed to tap into those official systems. So this is me, about 1.5 years ago, spending a whole week, 5 whole days, discussing the curriculum with the National Councils of Education, of Mathematics, of Literacy, whatever, and the Ministry of Education to get approval for what we were going to do. On the other hand, we needed a bottom-up approach. We had to go to the villages. This is not something I did myself. This was done by local people from the Afad University, and people working in the villages already. Watch Out Holland, an NGO, had people there. And we talked with parents, we talked with heads of villages, we talked with many, many people, and only if they believed they were going to do this and willing to participate, did we continue. So actually, those two coming together will give us the best results, because if we leave one of them out, we're sure to fail. And the last one, evidence-based. If you come in from the Western world, in developing countries, and you're going to tell them that this is the way they should go, even if you try to make sure it's their own curriculum, it is a good idea to put in some kind of research, some kind of testing to show what you've done. And we've done an educational research on the results of maths. So we did a pre-test and a post-test, all administered orally, because the children couldn't read and write. And they were designed by us and then performed by local people over there, with a facilitator doing the test, a supervisor checking the facilitator, Ministry of Education coming in from time to time checking if everything was done accordingly as we had planned. As you can see, the first 3 villages were our experimental villages, and the last one was our control group. Control group didn't show any progress in the 6 weeks of the pilot, and experimental villages showed almost double scores on our test. And this actually is what helped us to move into step 2, phase 2, and we're going to go with 1,200 children now, longer curriculum, longer pilots, and leave a 3-year curriculum once we get out. Okay, thank you.